blonde women are thought of as being Good morning, friends. In this video, you're going to find out how blonde women are treated differently in their lives. Do blondes really have more fun? We're gonna find out here. But before we do, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, like the video, and comment on the video for the sake of the algorithm. Now let's get started. First of all, we have to introduce blondness. Blondness is quite rare. Over 90% of the world's population have brown or dark brown hair, while only about 2% have blonde hair, and about 1% have red hair. Fascinatingly, despite its rareness, blondness has developed twice in human history. Once among Europeans, and once again among Melanesians that inhabit the Solomon Islands and Northern Ireland. These are people with very dark skin color that often have blonde phenotypes when they're children. The blondness that's found among Europeans and the blondness that's found among Melanesians are of different characters. They're determined by different genetic polymorphisms that cause them, all happening at several genes, so they're polygenic. They're a little bit complicated. But the only reason I'm mentioning all of this now is just so you guys know that it's very interesting that humans developed this unusual look twice and through different genes. Anyway, the topic of this video isn't the history of blondness or the genetics of blondness, but I just thought it would be interesting to mention those facts. Let's now get started talking about how blondness affects women's experiences in life. There are just a few notes that I want to make on this subject that are quite consistent, beginning with age. For example, there's a study on 475 children. They found that the children that were blonde in the ages of 2 to 3, 70% of them were not blonde by late childhood. So the majority of children who are originally blonde end up not blonde. Anyway, the reason why I mention all of this is that blonde women are consistently judged to be younger, and this is particularly true in more light-skinned women, such that when women are light-skinned and blonde, they're judged by men to look younger. Now, you might be thinking of effects of age on attractiveness, but this has other troubling effects actually on women's lives. Next, blondness is associated with attractiveness. I'll begin with a study on several decades of publications from magazines like Vogue and Playboy. These magazines found an overrepresentation of blondness in the woman pictured, such that you may think that blondness is somehow associated with beauty in the public discourse. And this is in line with studies that show that Western men view blonde women as more attractive, more healthy, younger. They find them to be better potential girlfriends and better potential mothers as well. There are actually a couple of experimental studies on nightclubs that show that men are more likely to approach blonde women in nightclubs. Interestingly, in one of these studies on British men, the British men reported finding the brunettes more attractive, although they approached the blondes more often. They consciously thought the brunettes were more attractive, but they approached the blondes more often. And consciously, they thought of the blondes as being more needy. This is the first example we can see of men having a sort of cognitive dissonance, where consciously they don't overvalue blondes, but subconsciously they appear to. Now, the observation that when women dye their hair, they're more often to change their hair color from a common hair color to an uncommon one, such as blondness. This observation led scientists to think that maybe the reason blondness is attractive to men is because it's rare. This is called a negative frequency association. However, a 2015 quantitative study found that it's unlikely to be the case that there is a negative frequency dependent association of interest in blonde hair in humans. In fact, if anything, there's a positive frequency dependent association of male redheads slightly preferring female redheads more. In general, though, there doesn't seem to be an attraction to rarer hair colors because they're rare. Next, the subject of intelligence, probably the most common stereotype we hear about blondes being less intelligent. In fact, blondes are on average more intelligent than non-blondes. Blonde women are on average more intelligent, have higher IQs, more likely to be geniuses, and much less likely to be particularly mentally handicapped. Now, for those that don't realize, this is not because of an association between blondness and intelligence most likely, but because of the genetic factors that predispose people to blondness maybe being associated with other genetic factors common among Northern Europeans that are associated with higher IQs. But unfortunately, people don't realize this. When blondes dye their hair darker colors, people think of them as more intelligent. Now, we've already touched on the subconscious versus conscious characterization of blondes in society. How does this subconscious understanding of blondes affect men's behavior? Let me give you a few examples. Essentially, men tend to help out blonde women and be more physically attracted to them and more likely to be helpful or manipulated by them. Because of their subconscious relationship with blonde women, men are much more likely to help them in real life. For example, men are more likely to pick up blonde hitchhikers than hitchhikers of other colors. Men are also more likely to donate to a door-to-door fundraiser who is a lady that is blonde than a lady with another hair color. In fact, one of the best examples of this is in waitresses. Waitresses are treated unusually well when they're blonde. Waitresses who are younger, fitter, bigger breasted, or blonde get paid more. Blonde waitresses get tipped more often and more. Their average tip is 25% higher than non-blonde waitresses. And blonde waitresses average an over 6% increase in their wages versus non-blonde waitresses. Now, although the presence of the color gold is associated with people paying more in general, I think that this is likely not the effect of the color of blonde hair, but rather the effect on either attractiveness or neediness, helplessness that's causing men to donate more to waitresses. But let's compare this to what happens to blondes when they work in corporations. So as you guys may know, for example, taller people get hired easier and get paid more than shorter people. Is this true with blondes as well? Do blondes have an easier time like they do in waitressing with their jobs? Not so much. Interestingly, when blondes work in corporations, when they're inexperienced, they get paid less than they should. Whereas when they're experienced or over time, this gap closes and they eventually get paid more than they should. Oh, I should also mention that blondes are underrepresented in corporate leadership in the UK. But this is sort of a side note. I don't want to read too much into it. I think the study has some methodological issues. But what we should learn here is this. When blondes get hired, it appears to be the case that men consider them incompetent or needy and underpay them for their jobs. But when they establish their actual ability and the employers see their ability, they end up overpaying them. I think that the overpaying is due to the attractiveness feature and the underpaying is due to the effect of their thoughts on blonde people's intelligence or neediness. So let's quickly review what we learned in this video. First of all, blonde women are thought of as being younger, more helpless, more attractive, and less intelligent. Second, when men are forced to make an on-the-spot decision about a blonde woman that they don't know, if it regards helping them, they will be more likely to help them than others, due to subconscious reasons that they're not totally aware of. However, third, when men have the ability to consciously think about the blonde woman, consciously, if they don't know her well, they will underestimate her value. Whereas if they know her well, they will overestimate her value. So what are the outcomes of all of this? Well, if a woman is manipulative and hardworking, it's better for her to be blonde in the West. She can get more unlimited potential later on and can better manipulate men in the short term. On the other hand, if a woman is a type of woman who likes to let her work speak for itself, is not very socially manipulative, or is not the type of person that politics, it may be better not to be a blonde woman so that you don't get unfairly misjudged or have your work underappreciated at the start. Anyway, friends, I hope you found this summary of the research on blondness slightly helpful or interesting at the very least. If you have any blonde friends or family members, please send them the video. I look forward to seeing you again.